Could you sum up for us your musical career?
It would take 1,000,000 years, but it's just been wonderful. I can only say that the main thing about my musical career is that through all I've been doing, I've given a lot of pleasure, I know, to many people, but I've had most pleasure. The greatest thing for me is actually, it's the same with my present band, Elliot and Adrian Drover. When you hear a good band playing what you've written, the arrangements, it's worth a lot. And I've had much more out of music than I've given to it. Tell you that.
Okay.
Does that answer you?
For a second, just go for that one again if you don't mind.
Right. Could you sum up for us your musical career?
Yes, it's been wonderful. But the greatest thing is that all that I've managed to do, and I've been lucky every time everything's come my way. A lot of people have played, always said they've had great pleasure in the music, but the one that's had the best out of it is me. Just when you arrange things and you have a good band and it comes all right, I think, Tom, Elliot.
Sorry about that.
What you said the first time was better, wasn't it?
Yes.
I don't know if you remember.
Just repeat. Tommy knows what he said.
Right, okay. Could you sum up for us your musical career?
In one word, wonderful. Secondly, very lucky, because God gave me a talent and I was able to use it. And throughout the whole of my career, I know I've made a lot of people happy, but music's given me much more than I've given it to him. I haven't given nothing compared to what I receive. Just when you do an arrangement like Adrian and Elliot in our band, when you hear it coming back, well played, the reward is absolutely marvellous. So I've given, but I've received much more.
Next question.
Next question. Can you tell us about your relationship with Eric Delaney?
Eric?
Yeah.
Well, I knew Eric when he was playing with Geraldo. And then I was living in Brighton, and Eric came down with his band, which was, I remember, 4 trumpets, 4 saxes, and rhythm. And he played in the local palais down there. And I did several arrangements for him. But the toughest one of the lot was when he asked me to compose something for Tubular Bells, which he recorded. So I had to compose one and do it with Tubular Bells. But Eric was absolutely wonderful, and he's been a great friend through all the years. And, Tom, he came and did the jazz festival with us. And Eric is just, to me, a super guy, full of fun. And when he came up for that jazz festival, he said, of course, I won't be able to play the drums for you. And I said, why? He said, well, I probably wouldn't read it all correctly and things like that. I said, Eric, stop pulling my leg. You'll do it. And it was wonderful. You'll remember Tom. He played. His eyes were never off me. And of course, the way he runs around that kid. So I've always had a great relationship with Eric. He's a lovely man.
Could you tell us about the apples and oranges arrangement? Is there some kind of confusion over the name? Was it oranges and lemons, or somebody called it apples and oranges? Can you tell us what happened there?
I forget who I was.
Was that in some of our...
That was a bit of an in-joke, it seems, watching the tapes back. You said to Eric, is this apples and oranges? And he starts laughing because it's oranges and lemons, his famous
That's right, but
piece.
someone came up with that. Someone announced it on someone well known.
Oh, on the radio or something?
Yes, that's how that came about.
Mistake, I see, right. Yeah.
Okay. Could you tell me your reflections on the 2002 gig with Eric? Could you tell us about, Danny Moss and Bruce Evans was playing there as well at that time. Could you tell us a bit about them as well? The whole...
Well, Danny. Well, yeah, Danny was a great player with us. And actually, his first wife was a bit of a singer, and we took her and let her sing songs occasionally. Was it, some chorus, some gigs.
Stuff like you saying, just
Not to
It's
do.
not for camera.
This is not to do with Eric. This Lisa, a couple of years ago, came in and she said, Eric Delaney's been on the phone. Has left a number to phone him. So I thought, what did Eric wanting? Maybe he's wanted to come back and do another show or something, because he still lives in Spain, but he keeps a kid in Blackpool, you see. And that's what he keeps, another kid. So I dialed the number. I said, Eric? And the voice said, who? I said, who am I speaking to? He said, Derek. Derek Blackpool. Derek Blackpool.
Oh, the wrong one.
And Lisa thought he said Eric from Blackpool. So I always call Derek Derek now. How are you doing, Derek? Eric,
That is funny.
very good.
But he's an amazing guy for his age. Apparently he does that routine 6 nights a week.
The
Yeah.
whole thing, with the kettle drums and the kit.
And I
running
think
between
it's
the two.
about, I don't think he starts doing that. I think that goes on at 12 o'clock every night.
At 12 o'clock.
And he still he goes out running every day.
He's fit as a fiddle,
Oh,
and
what an amazing guy.
But it's always been fun. I mean, Eric is a lovely guy. But I mean, to be asked, apart from else, to be asked to compose a jazz number for Tubular Bells, I mean, he's as crazy as that.
Show business.
that's show business. Give me a mark on me a couple of questions, Tom. Get the notes there.
What was where is that sheet there?
I wish I could remember who it was said about apples and oranges. It was on a broadcast. I had someone talking about it on a broadcast, definitely.
All right.
Okay, we're going again about Delaney. Okay?
Okay.
You tell us about your relationship with Eric Delaney.
Now, how did you meet Eric? How did you first meet Eric Delaney or hear about him?
Am I still to talk?
Yeah, that's you. You're on there.
I see I'm on. Well, when I had my big band going, Eric was a drummer with Geraldo. And of course, that's how I got to know him, first of all. You're looking worried, Tom.
Is that the Hoover?
I'm just.
When I was trying to let him sing George.
Yeah, well, we've got silence.
Okay.
Get back into the thing.
Tell us about meeting Eric Delaney.
I first met him when he was playing for Geraldo and I had my band going. And always great character, a very fine drummer. But then Eric, I was living in Brighton, and Eric went to play in the local dance hall down there. And he had a band, if you remember, there was a band that did all the recordings. 4 trumpets, 4 saxes, rhythm section. And so that's a telephone I can hear.
Again, tell us about Eric, sorry.
Wait a minute, something's about to brew. Just give us a second. Yeah, there we go. So, Eric Delaney, tell us all about him.
Eric,
Eric, yeah.
I'll tell you and all the people walking about. I'll tell them all about it. Eric was Geraldo's drummer when my band was going, the 47-50 band. And he was a wonderful guy, always full of humour and a lively character. But I was living in Brighton and he came down with his band to play regularly, residential, in the local ballroom. And so I did some arrangements for him. And then he came and asked me to do an impossible one. He wanted me to compose a jazz piece for Tubular Bells, which I did and I recorded, but that was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do. But he's been a great friend through all the years.
How did he come to play with you at the gig in 2002? How did that come about, that Eric Delaney and you were sort of gelled together on that?
Do you know, I think it was Roger that asked if Eric could do a gig with me. And I said, well, of course he can. And he brought his own arrangements across. And the amazing thing about that was they were done by Ron Simmons, who had been one of my great trumpet players. And I thought he's only copied them. And in point of fact, Ron had done them, and before Ron died, he gave me he died, of course, Ronnie, but he gave me a CD of stuff he'd done with the German band he played with his arrangements. He was a very good arranger. But anyway, Eric, I said he would delighted, if he came. And Eric thought that I was going to accompany him his solos. And he said, of course, I won't be playing with the band. And I said, you surely have to. My drummer's not coming that night. And he said, will I be able to read all the parts? And that's the biggest joke, because Eric could read anything. But he came and played the lot. His eyes were never off me. Everything I did, looked at him, he was watching. And, well, Tom, you were there, you were playing. He was wonderful, wasn't he?
Hilarious.
And the way he goes round his kit, of course, and runs round. But we know a lot about Eric. He's always had lovely young wives, and they're all very nice too. And he keeps himself very fit. And crossing Spain, he goes on 6 nights a week, about midnight, and does an hour's show, and goes training the next day. So I don't know how he's time for a wife at all, but he certainly is a great man. And he'd come any time over. I'd come any time. He's a kid at Blackpool. Just give him a ring, he'll be up.
Excellent, Tom.
Great, Tom. Tell us about the time when Stan Reynolds smashed a record over your head.
Well, my relationship with that band was absolutely wonderful. They were all great, very young. I was 10 years older than any of them. And a great relationship. On the bandstand, well, I didn't know about the Sampson death look till after the band had pulled. Stan told me about it, because if anyone made a mistake, I just looked at them and they couldn't play for the next 2 numbers. It was a very strict discipline on the stand, but off the stand. And we were playing in Newcastle and the Oxford Galleries, and right opposite there was Phoenix, a big store. So Stan said, come on, let's go over to the Phoenix store. So we went down, and I wandered along with them. And Stan said, have you got any Victor Sylvester records? And they said, which one? Any one will do. So I wondered, I didn't know what was going on. Then Stan picked it up and came smashing it on right over my head, and they all went out laughing. That was it. But that was Stan. Stan was full of everything, great character. And, well, sometime I'll tell you about the broadcast of Victor Sylvester. That was fantastic. Do you want to know about it?
We'll go through this and then we'll remind you of it.
Okay.
Just got to nail these things.
Hiya, I'm coming back tonight at 10 o'clock.
Tell us about Paul Eshelby.
Paul. Well, I met Paul when he came up and played with the radio band, Scottish radio band. A very fine player and a super character. But I fell out with Paul because I was playing in the Barrowland and I was off one night, I wasn't well. And the rule of the Barrowland was that they didn't go out the door, and breaks had to stay in the Barrowland. When I came back, an old gentleman had the place, so Mackay, a wonderful character, he sent for me, and he'd had to discipline 2 of them for going outside. And of course it was Paul and someone else. So I had to fire Paul. That was it, sacked him from the band. It was the only way. So that was Paul and I, and we didn't see each other for a long, long time. And then I was playing a gig in a place which belonged to you, Tom, downstairs.
Fingers.
Place.
The place, that's right. You had my big band down there. And Russ phones up Paul without telling me and books him to the band. How it was that he booked him for the band, because it wasn't my band manager in that time, my golf partner in that. That's another story, golf partner. He was a terrible golfer. But anyway, when I get there, Paul's there, and we look at each other. Paul said, I didn't know you were playing for me. And I said, I didn't know you were playing. How are you, Paul? Put our arms around each other. And he's been the best friend I could have. I mean, when I've been down to conduct the radio big band, I know Paul's done that. That's like, and he'd come up any time for me. And when he was up last year, my goodness, I'd always heard Paul playing great solos with the band, but when he brought his arrangements up last year, just some of the best trumpet players. Well, what do you think, Tom?
Gorgeous.
There's never been anything so wonderful. And what he got out of my band, I just had to sit in front of the saxes, and they never played like that for me in their lives. They did. They were so wonderful. The intonation, and one part, 3 flutes playing in unison. Well, I didn't write that. I don't know anyone who would. But that arrangement had, and they all played in tune. And when you did the unisons, it was just the 2 tenors and 2 altos. Smack on. I did speak to them after. I said, why are you not doing it for me? But they're all lovely guys. It's family. They're talking about my family when you talk about my band. You know that, don't you?
Brilliant.
Tell us about Rona and Hamish, who played with your band last year. Is it Hamish?
Hamish McGregor.
Hamish McGregor.
Because he played Sweet Georgia Brown.
All right, okay. Well, separate. Tell us about Rona.
About Rona? Well, when I had been at Morley's, and he did the double cross thing, signed all the band up behind my back. And the story of that one was quite funny because there was nothing I could do about it. And Henry Sperry, my friend, took me to see Mr. Beltrami in Glasgow, and should we try and put a hold on the thing or anything? He said, it's not worth it. And the way it turned out was that next week, Henry and Ross Bowie said, form the big band again, and which we did in to play in Greens. And Frankie, my vocalist, by that time, her voice was giving her trouble. So Russ reminded me, he said, there's a girl you've heard her sing, Rona Hughes. Well, Rona came and sang. And of course, nowadays, since I formed this band, I've only done 4 gigs without her because there's 1 or 2 things goes on. And quite honestly, when she's not there, the band's, you're lost. She's such a pillar. She's a wonderful vocalist. I used to walk into the ballroom, the Mayfair, when we played there. Rona, have you heard this one? No. And I'd sing it to her, the words and things, and she'd go on and sing it. And I'd shout the words in her ear and everything. Rona is just the biggest pro of any girl singer I've met. She is a complete pro, and she stands there and she never refuses to sing anything. She'll do anything. And I suppose with a small band, it's at least 150 arrangements she has in the band. At least of that. And the biggest joke with Rona is that I do the same song, but for the big band and the small band. And of course, they're not the same routines. And Rona will say before, we say, when do I sing? I said, no idea. Ask the lead alto. And we have to do it that way because when you're doing as many arrangements, when I was in Fat Sam's, I was doing about 6, 7 arrangements every week. So people were coming in, so we're doing all that. That's why it's such a big library. But Rona is just absolutely wonderful. And unfortunately, there are gigs she can't do with me just now. She's playing with an old friend of mine, Ken Herbertson, and he's very good to let her off when she can. But the people where they're working, where the band's working, they love her. We all love her. But Rona, well, she'll go on like Ella and sing with me as long as I live. I know that much.
Yeah, excellent. And how did Hamish McGregor come to play at the gig last year at the Hub?
Hamish? Well, Hamish is Fat Sam's band. And I was instrumental when he formed Fat Sam's. Hamish came to see me and said, I'm forming a band and this is the style I want. And he had brought records of the jumping, jive and all those kind of the jump records. So I basically did the original arrangements of the pad, and we remained friends through all the years. But he's a good artist. And Hamish had actually gone, I heard about it, he'd gone and sang one number with the trombone player, his trombone player, the BBC man. Tom, you played in the band. Come along.
Yesterday.
Wait a minute, I'll think of
Bachelor.
Yeah, Dave Batchelor. Dave Batchelor.
Camp
And
David.
Dave was doing a big band thing across in Fife, where he lives. And he'd asked Hamish across. And he got Hamish to get up and sing a song. And Hamish said, I was so knocked out. It was the first time I ever sung with a big band. We were knocked out with it. And so I thought, well, how lovely. Because Hamish is a superb artist. I mean, in the way he stands in front of it. Five Sam's band knocks me out. He remembers all the songs and plays. And it's it's my favourite band. I mean, if I wanted to entertain myself on a night, I wouldn't go and stand in front of my band. I'd go and listen to Hamish band. It's a fact. It's everything, and the carry-on that goes on between Billy Hunter and Dave Batchelor, and Billy's always complaining about half the band of things the way we play and that, and he loves every second of it. Billy in front of that band, he's really part of it, and Dave, and they work so well with them all. So I said to Hamish, how would you feel about coming and singing a number with the band? He said, the big band, I'd love it. And I said, what do you want to do? He said, could you do a arrangement of Sweet Georgia Brown? And that's how that happened. And we had him back in a concert we did 10 days ago. We had him doing Sweet Georgia Brown, and it went down the same way. Knocks everyone out.
How did you get to meet Tom Finlay and get him working with you?
How did I meet Tom? I don't know. I don't know whether Tom...
I came and played for you in the Burma. Remember, with a quartet I was working with. That's the first time I ever played for you.
Well, there you are. That was memorable because I don't remember it. But
We only lasted 4 weeks, that's why you don't remember. I think you're fireman's.
But no, Tom, I met Tom more or less a lot when I had a tilted week. He had an office next door.
That's right.
And he tried to sort some of my inland revenue things out for me.
Impossible.
And which is, I mean, my daughter, when she was 28, she was the tax training manager of Cooper and Lambrand in London. She's got degrees in it, the whole thing's her first honours. And she always said, tax, Dad, I wouldn't touch your stuff with a barge pole. That's what my daughter's like. But I remember I met Tom then. But I don't know when you started playing for me again, Tom. I can't remember. But I'll tell you this much. He could play for me any time before anyone else. The greatest thing he has, he's the best accompanying someone in Colla Voce. He's worked at it so hard. But it's absolutely, it's wonderful to listen to every time. That's why I do a few verses now with Arlene especially. When those two work together, it's just out of this world. But of course you do it with Craig McMurdo. It's an act between the two of you. Thomas got the talent, but his jazz work, of course, he's just out of this world. But I'm going to tell him off for one thing. Next time he plays All of Me, the Basie version, I want the Basie version, not Tom Finlay's, because Basie plays one-note stuff. He played wonderful stuff for me across in Fife. In the concert 10 days ago, but it was no longer Basie. And I'd done all that arrangement off the piano, taken it all down. So in future, Tom, it would be lovely. And you had a guitar, LA playing guitar so nicely behind you. But what you played was brilliant. But it wasn't Basie. And you know something? The present Sid Lawrence band with Christine, the great thing about that is the best band playing at the moment, by the way, in my opinion. The intonation and the sound and everything. But the soloists only play in Glenn Miller stuff exactly what's on the record. And of course, the general public, if you don't play that, they think you're playing the wrong tune. Can you calm me a minute, please?
Ended up a hard time.
I've been thinking about that one. Next question.
No, do you mind, Tom? Tom, you can cut it if you like. But Tom, it is a fact. That's what the Sid Lawrence band, they only play because in the mood, when we get saxophone players trying to play it in their own little thing, the people think they're not playing the tune.
Yeah.
Because the general public don't know. But the famous one, I mean, all of me is the most famous of all the bassy ones. And he just does that. I don't think he's got a lick band. And it's so wonderful, so light, and then you get the band coming in, you know, the whole thing.
Yeah. Point taken.
So, next time, Tom. It's still my favourite
I've
pianist.
never actually heard it, the original.
Oh, Tom, you must hear it.
But, I mean, I remember you gave me a hard time one time we did it in the hub, because when Fat Sams do it, they do a gag. You know what?
Which we've got.
You've got that gag.
It's a Les Dawson
da,
bit.
da, 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 da. And no, what's it go? They come in with a big. Yeah, the band goes and the band collapses and everything falls back, and there's a gap of about maybe 4 bars where I don't play at all whenever he's falling about, which
very little played after that.
yeah. Well, okay, so it's got to be minimal.
I think Basie gets a fright himself.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Incidentally,
More.
no. Is that still on? Is this thing still on?
Oh yes.
Oh dear. I've forgotten what I was going to have to tell you now about.
I think you're going to give me a hard time about something else.
No, I wasn't. No. It's
Can you squeeze out the best bits of Tom Finlay and tell me why he works with you in the band today?
Well, he did that, didn't he?
why he works with me.
Aye.
I was cheapest.
Well, I always ask him, and it's because my band isn't a band, it's a family, and when Tom's there, I'm comfortable, and unless I have the drummers I like, and believe me, where are they? So few. Some good drummers, but the drummers I like all started with Dougie Cooper, the original band, and if I looked at Dougie, he played what I wanted him to play. He knew what was in my head. And the best over years was young David Stewart from Edinburgh. David, 15 when he came and played for us. And it was Jay Craig who told me about him. He was talking to me when he'd been in with his father down in Bournemouth, and I was playing Fat Sam's, and this gentleman came, his father and the boy. He said, Tommy, we were down in Bournemouth last week on holiday, and we went into a club. Terrible band, went to another one, and there's this boy sitting with a whole Buddy Rich kit. He said, great drummer. So at the end I went and took my son over to him, David, and said, we've enjoyed your drumming so much. He said, where are you from? When he heard the accent, he said, Edinburgh. He said, he pulled a picture out of his pocket, said, do you know him? And it was Dougie Cooper with me, my original drummer. And so he said, well, I'll be seeing Tommy in a couple of days in Edinburgh at Pat Sam's. He said, well, tell him you met Dougie Cooper. With that, Jay Craig came over. Jay was over from America and playing with us. He said, has he told you met Dougie Cooper? I said, yeah, they've just told me. He said, his father told you he's a brilliant drummer. He'll read anything and swing. I said, no. Well, he does. And we were playing a wedding for Kevin Doyle's son. Kevin was older than me. We were playing a wedding for Kevin Doyle down in the Borders. And the drummer, I'm not going to mention him, it's a Glasgow drummer, and he phoned round and said, tell Tommy my wife won't let me out to play on Friday. It's a fact, that's a fact. So Big Jim Cowell, who was my right hand, a wonderful Jimmy, he said, Tommy, let's see about try that young drummer out. So his father was a taxi driver, he had his taxi, so he brought him down to the Borders, and we couldn't play for an hour and a half because there were guests coming. Kevin Doyle said, help yourself to the bar. Well, believe it or not, no one took advantage. They all had a drink, but they were all great. And eventually we went on the stand. We started playing. In the first number, Jimmy Cowell's looking at me, his eyes wide open. Rona's looking at me. This boy was not only reading everything that was on the part, but swinging like mad. And that was David. And from then on, well, the same night, we had, at that time, Drambuie sponsored me. Norman Kinnan was still alive. And we had Drambuie sweatshirts. And we'd given him one to go on the stand. So at the end of the night, I said, well, hang on to it just now. But wasn't enough for Big Jim. Father driving him away in his taxi. Jim stops the taxi, opened the door. David, welcome to the band. And that's how we got young David. And then we were playing a lot then. But of course, when we started not so much coming in for us, David went away and played with other bands, and he's now living in London and has worked for Pearl Drums and goes over.
Well times. Trust him. Could you tell me about the time you got to know Herb Perry?
Yes. The concert I was telling you about, the big band in prison camp. And that's when.
Can you tell me about the prison camp? What was the name of the prison camp?
Oh, that one was in Chieti in Italy. I'd formed the band when we went into Chieti, and we got instruments through the black market, because as officers, some money was sent out of our own accounts for what they called comforts to the Red Cross. So I had collections, and we got many instruments through the black market. But I was doing this big concert with all the tunes from all the up through all the years, and someone came up to me and said during the daytime, Walt Disney's arranger has been shot down. Well, he never believed anything like that. So, yes, that's right. So after the show, this fella came up and spoke to me. He said, can I call you Tommy? I said, of course. He said, my name's Perry, Herb Perry. He said, I work for Disney. And he said, I never thought I'd hear anything like this. Never thought I'd hear anything like this in a prison camp. He said, it'd been wonderful. He said, but you're playing all the jazz and lead trumpet. He said, my navigator's a lead trumpet. So now I knew the guy was having a big joke, you know. Navigator's a lead trumpet and he's a arranger. So he said, the next thing he asked me, he said, have you heard Harry James's arrangement? I had the craziest dream. I said, no. He said, do you rehearse? I said, every day. He said, could I do an arrangement for you? And he said, can I bring the lead trumpet along with me? So I said, of course, yeah. Well, the next day, he turned up where he'd got the paper and pencils from. He turned up with a fabulous arrangement if I had the craziest dream for me to play. But Vince Shanks was a lead trumpet. And actually, through years later, in the 40s, through the Merrimacs and all that, they went across back to America, went to Vegas, and the trumpet player, the lead trumpet, went and said, did you ever meet anyone called Sampson? He said, we've just been with his big band. He said, well, I was his trumpet player. And Vince actually, there was a great record called So Tired by, which is So Tired, wah, 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 wah. That's Russ Morgan, I think it was called. And he was the lead trumpet on that. But Herb, anyway, was there. And he was fantastic. And we became great friends. But we were doing a lot of musical shows written in the camp. And I had one I was supposed to do the next one. So I asked him to take it over. And I don't know where he got the stopwatch from, but he took it over. I played lead trumpet in the orchestra. And it was a thing all about Strauss. It had been written in the camp. But it stepped out of a picture onto the stage. And Herb had actually, in the music, got the footsteps. He was. The Waterloo Bridge, that famous film, he's a musical director on that. He was a top man. And we became great friends through the thing. And he was convinced, in those days I could play a trumpet. After I had my band, I wasn't allowed to play a trumpet. They all wanted to do everything, which they did. But he wanted me to go to America. I could write under his name in America, and we lived in Hollywood, Los Angeles lived, and I could write under his name for a year till I got it. And he was going to form a band around me, which was a tremendous offer. But I came out of prison camp. By that time I'd heard Harry James Band, I'd heard Woody Herman, I had all these bands. Who do you think you are? I had no hope, you know. And so I decided that I would stay over here. which I'm glad, because first of all, if I'd gone over there, I probably would have had a good band. Herb would have seen that I had, and I could play. But, well, when you think of it, Harry James married Betty Grable, Artie Shaw, Lana Turner. Well, I'd probably finished up with my luck, Mae West or someone like that. But I mean, I'd have been dead in no time. Whereas by not going, everything good's happened to me. But Herb kept in touch with me after the war, came over and saw me. I mean, he was a wonderful guy. While he was in prison camp, his wife wrote and said that Bob Crosby was selling his ranch. Could she buy it? He let her buy it. But she died when he went back. And when he came over to see me, he brought his new mother-in-law, who was one of the richest ladies in America. But Herb wasn't short of money. He's a great guy, but he was the most wonderful guy.
Can you tell us about I mean, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago about the strings section you had in the band. Can you tell us what your band was made up of in the prison camp?
I had 4 trumpets, which included me until Vince came in, then I had 4 and a soloist. I had 3 trombones, I had 5 saxes, I had 4 rhythm, and then I used to use 14 strings, the 14 strings from the symphony orchestra, just for some concerts. Because the great thing, I was a great fan of Artie Shaw's band, the one in the late 30s, and he used strings occasionally, but he only used them on the top, and probably usually 2-part harmony. It was just a colouring, and that's what I did in prison camp, because I didn't want a big string section playing. You had all the big, you've got a big band, big sound, but if you put the strings over the top, and that's, Artie Shaw did it marvellously.
Were you quite popular with the Germans? Did that sort of buy you favour, the fact that you had a band on the go?
Well, Italy and Germany. Italy was very funny because there was a little camp commandant, a little fat man, came on a bicycle, music mad. And I formed a choir as well, a big male voice choir. And he used to come round to my rehearsals. And always say, "Maestro, you must marry my daughter." And I always say, "Well, take me out to meet her." And of course he couldn't because I'd run away. But that was what it was like there. But in Germany it was wonderful because I'd be writing music through the night with candles. The reason I got what it was that when they put the lights out, so if I put a light on, even to write music, I'd be in the cooler. So the man in charge of all the entertainment just happened to be Ian Tennant, and he was a Scots Guards officer, and he looked after me like nobody. He's a year younger than I was, but he was such a wonderful guy, a real gentleman. And I would say, "Ian, I won't manage to do this arrangements for this next show because I've not got time. I can't write during the night." "Don't worry, Tommy, I'll get candles." He used to get me candles to write through the night. And on that part, he was a wonderful man, probably the nicest man I met in the whole war. And it wasn't until we were being released, I found that he was in charge of the escape committee. And that's why I had not to escape to keep the morale up. So no one shot me going over the wire or things like that. And then I found out, of course, he was the Queen's cousin. And Ian, he kept in touch with me. He and Angus Ogilvy opened up Grampian Television. He had me up there and never gave me the job of musical director. I asked him when I went up, I said, "Why, what happened?" He said, "We couldn't have afforded you, Tommy." Couldn't afford me. Alex Sutherland was doing it, had a great time. But Ian kept in touch with me. Unfortunately, he died just nearly 2 years ago, and I saw he left several million to a school, Gordonston. He was chairman of Gordonston, although he went to Eton and his son went to Eton. But that's another story. But in Italy, I used to be writing with candles, and some of these officers would come in the middle of the night. "What are you doing?" "There's a new show. Can we come to it?" So I used to say, "Yes, we'll arrange that." And they loved it, when they came to the shows. But then I had my instructions, so I would say, "Look, you come to my show, but help me, because we've got another show in about 4 or 5 weeks, and we need this and this and this."
Like what? Tell me, what did you request from them?
Well, it was different clothes, different kind of things. But that was for the escape committee, and they never found out. And they used to feed me stuff like that they wanted. And these guys used to turn it over. They used to come and sit in the front and enjoy the music, because they weren't allowed to listen to it. And, you know, Glenn Miller Band and things, in that time, they weren't allowed to listen to dance music. So, and I was Kapellmeister.
So tell me what happened at the sort of end of your camp days. How long were you in the camp for, and what happened on the day you were sort of liberated from the camp?
Well, you must have heard about it, because that's why you're asking this one. Well, we were in Italy for about 18 months. Then we were moved, supposed to go to Germany, but they put us through to Czechoslovakia for 5 months. And that was great, because there was a rugby pitch there, and we managed to get some gear. We used to play football and rugby. And believe it or not, guys getting broken arms and broken legs on playing rugby in prison camp. That's the last time I played in prison camp. But anyway, we went on to Brunswick, and there we got wonderful instruments through all Martins, brand new, through the Red Cross. And we were there until I came out. It was in April 1944, that's right, April 44. And then the Americans, we heard they were coming, the Americans came up to the wire. And what happened was that, a few years ago, someone came to live here, and he showed me this photograph of everyone, hundreds rushing out to the wire to meet them. He said, "You might find yourself in there." I said, "I won't." I finished the arrangement I was doing. It was never played. I was doing an arrangement for the band. I finished it before I went out to see them all.
Right.
But I mean, when you think of it, I had a big band like that. Could rehearse them every day, and with some great musicians. We made a great sound. And they improved, of course, all the time. But I didn't have to pay them. They all came for nothing. Now, I think I'm the only one. I think they tell me, my boys said they would come and rehearse for nothing. But I don't think I should take a chance, because they might not play for me anymore. They all expect to be paid for rehearsals. But frankly, I'm going to have a rehearsal for this year's Jazz Festival. Now that I've done 60 years, it's 60 years in January since I opened up at the El Dorado with the first band, and within a few months we were broadcasting. So celebrating that, and it is my 90th year started now, so I think I'll be doing definitely the Jazz Festival. I've got some corkers up my sleeve, because that first band made such an impression in London. It's still talked about. Well, I may be nearly 90, but I'm going to give them a surprise or two. I can write. I've learned a lot about writing. My writing nowadays is mainly based on making sure that the public can understand it, enjoy it, but the men still find it interesting. It's taken me a long time to learn to do the balance, but I think Tom would agree. That's why they all like coming and playing what I do. And so I want to show them that I'm not just a commercial arranger. It's a jazz festival. So there's one or two surprises up my sleeve for them. And then maybe they'll say, well, they can still do it.
Of course. Just like that.
Here's a zinger for you. Who's the better arranger, Johnny Keating or Tommy Sampson?
Oh, without any doubt, Johnny Keating must be. Johnny's done all the stuff in America. And I admire him for all he does.
He's quite a wild character, Johnny.
Sorry?
Johnny's quite a wild character. Did he give you any grief on the road?
Never. No, Johnny was only. I mean, he actually did do some arrangements around the road when he was starting. You know, he wasn't one of my arrangers. Just a few arrangements he did. But no, Johnny's done marvelously. It wasn't until he did his show in Edinburgh, talking about it, I realised how much he'd done in America. I mean, Johnny I always knew was a good arranger, all the Heath stuff. But no, we're different arrangers. Excuse me, I'm going to have to cough again.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Let me get rid of this.
No,
It's terrible, this.
Did you know suck the fish?
Oh, I saw that.
Away?
Take them out.
No, with Johnny, we were never very close for many years. We used to bump into each other. I still remember him. I came off a plane from London several years ago, and he was just going to get on one. And he was telling me, he said, I've just done an arrangement for Tony Bennett. And he said, it's the easiest thing I've ever had to do. Big spider bag. No, not big spider. Oh, dear, oh dear.
Trumpet player?
Stop in a minute. I've got his name.
Cornet player, trumpet player.
Yeah. Oh, the great one. I've got my book with me.
Bobby Hackett?
Bobby Hackett.
Start again. She's got to come out again.
Can I tell you from where?
Yeah, just connect them where you last it.
Yeah, well, yes, he'd done this arrangement, and I think it was the very thought of you, because Big Spider Bag had been playing right throughout it. He said I only had to write the string parts and the rhythm part, and he told me the money he got for
Oh,
it.
you said Big Spider back there, it was Bobby Hackett.
Yes, I've said it again.
You did it again, that's all
Okay,
right. No,
so just connect them again. You're at the airport with Johnny Keaton. What happens?
Well, he had just done this arrangement in America for Tony Bennett, and Bobby Hackett was doing the stuff on it, and he only had to write strings part, sustained strings and the rhythm, and the money he got for it was obscene, almost wonderful, you know. But when I saw him with his show he did, some of the stuff he did in America with some of the people he worked with, absolutely wonderful. And these were different kind of things. I mean, I don't think Johnny would lower himself to write some of the arrangements I do that the public would like. But I must say, when he came to the Queen's Hall and I heard him there, and he did the arrangement, and Stan Reynolds was sitting messing about on an extra fifth trumpet down below, and when he put an arrangement out of that one, well, he'd made another one up. It was nothing like the real one. But I think one of the best arrangements I've got in my pad is The Very Thought of You. And it's just, when I've written the part.
Is that the same arrangement as what Rona sang last year at the
That's right.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And Paul played the Bobby Hackett idea part. It's nothing like the Bobby Hackett thing, but it's the same idea. And Paul played, halfway through he played what I'd written, the rest he did his own thing. What he did was marvellous, but it wasn't what I wanted.
Another problem.
I'm just going to change tape, that's great. I'm just going to...
And Stan had arranged it all. And that's when we became close again. Mm-hmm. And we get on great when he comes up, you know, he lets me know when he's coming up. And but anyway, no, that one is entirely my own. I mean, the part in the middle with the band coming right up, that's nothing. In fact, I don't think there's any comparison with the two of the style of arranging.
Right up.
The only thing is I got the idea of the trumpet part from the Bobby Hackett thing, who was a wonderful player. Wonderful player.
In years and years and millions of years to come, how personally yourself would you like to be remembered?
As someone that made everyone happy. I mean, when I look at, I've got now in the band Elliot Murray. He's a better arranger I am now, and he's so wonderful, and he's a wonderful guy, great singer. His arrangements are wonderful, great instrumentalist. He can play everything, and he's the nicest guy I know. When he first sang for me, I had to stop him calling me Uncle Tommy, understand, in his first years. But as I say, with Elliot, And Adrian Drover is a great arranger. And he sits there. It's such a help to me. I mean, Adrian, he came to me, it was the year that Frank Pantrini went to Spain. And I went to hear, there was a sort of concert going away. And all in a big BBC, a big club that they all used to go to, a musicians club. Adrian said to me, why can't I play for you? I said, I didn't know you wanted to. And he sits there and he's such a support. And he's such a lovely gentleman. But I've been to hear his concerts and things like that. Very talented musician. Stuff he writes for brass bands, for contests and things like that. He's just a lovely guy.
Is it him who did the Ozone Friendly track?
Which one?
The one that Paul introduced last year.
Yeah, that's right.
That's a great track. That's really good.
He's wonderful. And he wouldn't conduct it himself because he wanted to play the one bass trombone part he'd written. He said, Paul, you do it. But Paul's wonderful. Paul, the way he handled that band.
Stan, when we were down in London, Stan told us a story about how he had to pawn his watch to keep the band on the go at times, to keep like a cash flow situation. Can you recall some of that?
I think a lot of it is rather imagination. I mean, the last story I heard was that my library was confiscated by the lady where they all used to stay in lack of payment. I've never stayed in the place in my life. On top of that, I deposited the library in the tin trunk we had.
What is a library? Can you tell us how do you...
All the music. The
written music?
Scores, all the parts that we played. I left it in Waterloo Station. And when we went back for it, it had gone. And it was sold to people like Basil Kirchen and things like that. And I have a fair idea who took it. Put the stuff in the hall. I said, go and get your digs, back to rehearse. We rehearsed 5 days a week on the road. And intersections and things. I mean, it was so perfect. And when Stan Reynolds took the brass, they were more afraid of Stan than they were of me.
Really?
George Hunter used to take the saxes. And they were just... I'll tell you the best one was when we were first down in London. And the band, they got this idea you had to play behind the beat. But the rhythm section got the same idea. And rehearsing one day, and I realized that if we went on for long enough, we would stop. Because the rhythm section was trying to get behind the front line, and the front line trying to play behind them. That's a fact. We're getting slower. They had these crazy ideas.
Can you tell us about how Dougie Cooper was the band barber?
He was. Dougie started giving all crew cuts. They all wanted crew cuts. And the best of the lot, when we were going to Germany, and it was about a couple of months before we went, and I used to see the things they said that Tommy used to go away when he couldn't pay us, which was when we got the money paid out. George, my roadie, he used to handle that, but I would have to go off to London to see the agents get more work. That's what I used to go and back again. But anyway, I remember them saying to me, are all the gigs fixed up till we go away? I said, yes, they are. What's happening? I said, well, there's some stuff for when we come back that's being organised. And this was we're playing in the hotel in the South End. And funnily enough, I knew the hotel quite well. I'll tell you afterwards why. But suddenly they all grabbed me, just held me and cut all my hair off, gave me a crew cut. So I went on the bandstand and I had a crew cut. That's the story of that. But funnily enough, when I was in the forces, when I was commissioned, was sent to join a unit down in Southend, and everyone had been sent away because we were going to go abroad on leave, and so we didn't have a mess, and so all the officers, we used to go to this hotel, run on the front for all our meals, and then later on, that's what I played when I had my hair all cut off years later.
Okay.
I was going to say, maybe you want to try that question again, because you immediately we're going to ask you again about how you want to remember, because you immediately got onto Elliot. You know, you started a little bit, but you talked about Elliot and Adrian. So
yourself.
Stick to how,
as you look down the staircase of your life, as it were, you know, how would you like to be remembered, you know, in years to come?
Yeah.
Well, it's very difficult now, because, I mean, I was brought up when I was very young in the Salvation Army, and I was brought up in a wonderful home. My father was a Justice of the Peace in Edinburgh, public works at Rotary, in Grand Lodge of Scotland, he was past master of Sir Walter Scott's Lodge. He was well known all around in the business circles, but all his spare time he gave to the Salvation Army, and he ran what we call the Young People's Corps. It was the Sunday school people. And Leith, when he came up, he was lamed himself when he was very young, so he couldn't go into forces. Came up to open up the business for the company he worked for in 1916. And he went to Leith. And in the 20s, it was the biggest Sunday school in the world. There was 1,100 children every Sunday. 800 at 2 o'clock, another 300 at 3 o'clock. He had something going for them all the time. And about 5 nights a week, there were different things. And Monday night there was always something for all kinds, and you know, they came in and they would do things to get them in. They'd all I'd get a bag of chips on the way out and things like that, you know. And there was a chip shop up there on the road, they just bath of chips and all that dumb thing. But it was a boys' band. There were scouts. I mean, when I was 5, there's a bugle band, and when I was 5, I used to march along blowing the bugle in front of the scouts. I could blow it at that age. And I still have the bugle. And it's 1923, it says on it, you know, and on the presentation thing. And funnily enough, talking about blowing the bugle, when I was in prison camp, well, pre-war, I used to have to blow that bugle, and when the Salvation Army band, we used to play at the Leith service on Armistice Day, and Bobby Wright, who played beside me, we used to play our last post together at that right up to the time of the war, up till 39. And when I was in prison camp in Italy, I had my cornet with me, and I had my cornet with me. I managed to hang on to it, and the senior officer got me to go out last thing at night and blow the last post right in the middle of the thing, carrying the flag, you know, we were showing it, and I used to blow the last post out there. So that's the bugle story. I've forgotten what you asked me about originally.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I know. Well, I was talking about why I'm in the Salvation Army. So I was brought up, and I was very much brought up in I'm a believer. You know, I believe in all the things I was taught. And all the time I was in prison camp, everyone knew I was in the Salvation Army. And when I formed my big band, I had to leave. You weren't allowed to be in a dance band and be in the Salvation Army. So I had to resign. But after I folded my band, they said that year they changed the rules, and you could be a professional musician. So I went back in, and I became a cornet soloist, and I was playing with the Cambridge Heath Band, but I was going all over Britain as a cornet soloist. And then, by this time I was George Mitchell's arranger, and we used to do it, especially Tony Mercer, Di Francis, Johnny Bolton, and we were the four that were closest in. They were all, you know, did all the thing, I did the arranging. And any time we recorded, even the Black and White Minstrels, although I didn't, only blacked up 3 times, but I had to always be there and do the quartet stuff with them. You know, I was a group singer. But we used to go on stage, and the man in charge of the London area had me suspended from playing because I did sketches with Benny Hill, and they were too blue. See, we used to be taken in to do anything on television. Great fun.
What were you doing with Benny Hill? What was the thing?
Well, there's some sketches.
Was this the Palladium or where?
No, there's a television show. You know, the television show. I mean, for instance, one of the ones he did was Top Town. He used to have something where so many people from one town sang against so many, and he did all the acts, but we had to go and back him and things like that. So I was suspended for that. Well, at the time, I was going in to studios on Sunday mornings in Salvation Army uniform, Stanley Black and that thing, the whole orchestra, the choir, and the star who was there might have been any. That was before the Goons even were really going. You know, Peter Sellers and people like that. And I'd go in full uniform, take my stuff through, and off to play with the Salvation Army. So I was showing the flag, and I was suspended. Well, I was so hurt and so angry. I mean, I know, looking back, I could have gone to several people and said, is this right? And they'd have said, well, do you have to do it? Well, and it would have been. But in point of fact, the general at that time was a General Kitchen, who had been in charge of Scotland years before. And just a few months before this happened, I was playing a big thing. I played with the Cambridge East Band, and we're sitting at the front, and the general was there taking this thing. And he said, right in the middle of the talk, he said, that's my personal cornet player, Tommy Sampson, down there. What are you doing here, Tommy? Well, he knew me well enough for that. If I'd gone and spoken to him, he'd have simply said, you have to do it. I said, no, don't do it. But that's how it turned out anyway. So I was out for all those years, and I was out for 38 years. And in point of fact,
What's the top again?
You know, one sentence.
A couple of sentences.
A couple of sentences, if you want to think what it's going to be. You know,
Okay.
what would you like to be remembered by? You know, just sort of had a great band, had a great time, had a da-da-da-da. Something about...
well, the main thing I would like to be remembered for...
Hold it. We're not shooting you.
No, I'm telling you, the main thing is that I am a Christian and trying to spread the gospel.
Okay.
That's the main thing I'd like to be remembered for, in spite of all I've done.
Okay.
But musically, we're talking about music, you know.
Musically, you can put that in towards the end. I just necessarily... Right, we're just shooting this, we're just on the last question.
That, yes, sorry.
We just nailed. You can talk what you like. Okay, so how would you like to be remembered, Tommy?
Are you talking musically?
Yes.
Yeah, give us them both.
Well, I've made people happy. I've made musicians happy. They would like playing my music. And that I was quite good at it. That I didn't let you all down. I don't think... It's difficult to say, isn't it? I'm not big-headed, honestly. I don't want to be. But I think I've done a good job, and I've been happy. You remember me as a happy musician from the start.